Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Startup Day today. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Sarah Eschner, and I am the SME Champion in Waltham Forest for our Startups in London Libraries program. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to write your value proposition. And if you have any questions following the session, I have included my email here as well, so feel free to get in touch. So what is the purpose of a value proposition? I think we all hear it quite a lot, but there's a few reasons why it is important. So one is to succinctly describe your business so it can be communicated quickly and effectively. So sort of like an elevator pitch. But an elevator pitch is more like if you have someone, actually stuck in an elevator with you for 30 seconds, going down a few floors, and you have that amount of time to pitch your business. So it's a bit longer. You might have, like I said, 30 seconds to a minute. Whereas a value proposition tends to be just one sentence, maybe two. And it's something you can use across marketing materials. So say if you have a website that has e-commerce, it's something that you can just add at the top of your website just to make it really clear who you are, who your customers are, and what you're selling to them. So as this bullet point says, something that consumers will recognize and understand immediately. And it's also to provide a consistent message internally and externally. So if you have employees who you're bringing on, maybe it's something that helps them to understand the business, as well as externally. Obviously, that is the main focus, is with your customers. So there's 6 different sort of principles and elements that tie into each value proposition, which is a lot to fit into that 1 or 2 sentences. So the 6 are, the first is the customer responsible for driving revenues in your profit model. And you want to think about, who is your customer? Often, we don't think about, sometimes we think about the end user as the customer, when really, we need to be looking specifically at who you're selling to. So an example of that is, if you have developed a program, say, that targets kids, kids, they're not actually your customers, they're your end users. You would actually likely be targeting the parents, and the parents would be your customer because they're the ones who are going to actually pay for and buy that service or product from you. So 2 is the key issue or problem of focus that your product or service essentially solves. 3 is the core motivating value for why someone will buy what you are offering, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail. 4 is your core product or service as a business. 5 is your competitive advantage. And 6 is your solution as it is a credible and sort of evidence-based product or service. So we'll go through these a bit more. So there are a few tools associated with your value proposition that can sort of link in. So your value proposition canvas, as you look at sort of, the pains that your customer experiences and the gains that your product or service creates to help solve that problem for them. So this links in directly with that most closely. Also, your business model canvas, the value proposition is sort of central element of the business model canvas. And, if you're not familiar with either of those tools, you're more than welcome to come to one of our Startups in London Libraries webinars, which is Get Ready for Business. And we do cover these in more detail, and you can learn sort of hands-on, how to use these tools. But also the value proposition links in with your profit model somewhat loosely, but your value proposition is what's going to help you attract customers, and they are the ones who ultimately are going to be buying your product or service and feeding that into your business. So the concept of the core motivating value is a little bit unique. So, it's the value that the customer finds important that motivates them to do business with you. So often we'll find ourselves talking about our business and what it does in terms of, the service that it provides or the product that it is. So instead of looking at exactly what it is you're delivering, you have to take it a step further and look at what value that is creating for the customer outside of that. How does it transform their life in some way? So essentially, it's a value that they can't create for themselves. They need you to do this for them. And it's stated in a way that they feel as though, I can't miss out on this. And it's something that's going to benefit their lives in other ways. So it'll make their business more efficient or their daily lives more efficient. It will bring life-changing opportunities to them. It will bring them significant happiness, something that is a value outside of what is that actual product or service in itself. So we're going to look at a scenario today and a couple examples of different value propositions, just so you can get an idea of what a certain value proposition might look like if it's a little bit weaker, and one that's better. So here's our scenario. So we've got a team's project who's involved in running workshops to educate refugees about entrepreneurship. The refugees themselves were seen as the paying customer, so the team needed a value proposition to target them, the refugees, directly. Without a good value proposition, the refugees wouldn't come to the workshops. They wouldn't be compelled to join. So this is our first example. I'll read through it, but it's good if you can sort of assess this on your own while reading it and see if you think it's good or where it could be improved, and then we'll go through the evaluation together. So we are facilitators who collaborate with refugees, supporting their integration into a new society by providing workshops that identify their skills and knowledge, helping them to discover opportunities that empower the community. Okay. So if we have a look at that, it sounds nice, but is it specific enough? So we'll go through the evaluation and look at, does it identify the customer? Yes. So that's fairly easy, right? We can say refugees. Does it identify the issue? Kind of. It's a bit broad. We can look and say, is the issue here, that they aren't as integrated as one would like into a new society? But it's not spelled out for us. So identifies the core motivating value. So this also is not very compelling, right? So what is the main value here that they might get? Is it that it will help them to discover opportunities that will empower the community? What kind of opportunities are these? Is it going to be transformational? Is it unique? There may be a number of different opportunities that they can discover that can empower the community in different ways. So, it doesn't show how it directly impacts, the refugee themselves and their life. So identifies the core product or service, just going through on the right here, if you're following along with me. So workshops. So we do talk about the workshops there, providing workshops that identify their skills and knowledge. But what is the expertise that you bring to the table? Is that something that they could identify on their own or with someone else? What makes you sort of the unique person who can do that for them? And that ties in with the competitive advantage. They may be able to go lots of places to find a workshop that will help them identify their skills and knowledge. So again, a bit vague. And then down at the bottom on the right, we've got identifies credible solutions based on evidence. And again, these are linking in with those 6 sort of core principles and elements of the value proposition. So we don't really see what the evidence is here that makes your product or service or their product or service for the workshops really above and beyond, how do we know that this is a service that we can rely on, that has helped other refugees in the past. There are facilitators for everything these days. So again, it sounds nice as a value proposition, but it doesn't really hit home what the core values are, and why someone will want to get in touch with this organization. So let's try another one. So example 2, based on successful application across multiple communities, we offer refugees a guided program of development that transforms them from learned isolation to effective goal attainment by using evidence-based practices. Right, so this one's not any longer, but it's a lot more specific, and it gets to the point. So if we go through the evaluation together again, and these sort of 6 elements, so we can look at, yes, they've identified the customer as refugees. So they have specifically identified the issue here, which is learned isolation, that these refugees may have experienced, due to their circumstances. So that sort of paints a bit more of a picture than our previous example. So identifies the core motivating value. It transforms them from learned isolation to effective goal attainment by using evidence-based practices. So that is, sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. This is COVID life today. So where were we? So learned isolation to effective goal attainment. So, if you look at that as a core motivating value, that is something that could actually transform someone's life and would be motivating. And it's something that if you read that and you're experiencing that sort of learned isolation, that you could connect with it. So you could connect. Sorry, we've got a dog on the loose here. So as I say, if you're the customer, you may read that and feel like I'm experiencing learned isolation, and I do want that to help transform my life in some way. So again, it builds that connection a bit more. And so identifies your core product or service. And it does do this as well. So, a guided program of development that's fairly clear. It doesn't go into the details of, what the steps of that program may be, but you know that you're guided throughout the way and that there's going to be a mentor or someone who's there with you. And then we look at, does it identify the competitive advantage? So we've got based on successful application across multiple communities, and that is quite unique. If that's something that, your business has been able to do, there won't be another business out there who has helped the same communities as you in the same way. And it also sort of links into you being a credible, evidence-based is, not just the fact that you say you're evidence-based, but that, you have tested this in multiple communities and it's been successful. But then at the end here, we do have, evidence-based communities, which links into emphasizing the fact that, we are aware that our processes, are effective, and we've done the research and we're using, these practices. So I think this is quite a lot stronger, and it can be difficult when you're in sort of an early stage business to have an extremely strong, credible, evidence-based solution. You might have to look at your background and say, who have I helped? How have I transformed people's ways? And to use that to build your credibility. Or if you are, say, implementing a process that's relatively new for your business or service, how has that similar process been proven in other situations? What research or what data is out there to show you that, what you're doing will work? Okay, so I'm guessing there might be a couple questions now, but I'll leave it on this slide for a second and I'll just have a quick look to see if there's any questions. Okay, it looks like there's not, so that's fine. So anybody who wants to take this away and to try this at home, it can be difficult to sort of pack all of this into one sentence for your business. Take some time. So you can think about how these different, 6 principles or elements really tie in with your business. What are they? How can they fit together in a sentence that is really concise and specific to your customer? So once you've written it, you can put it on your website. You can use it when you're contacting customers or clients to talk about what you do and to try to attract them to your business. Or partners, what I meant to say. So customers or partners. If you're trying to get to build that network in your relationships, then you may need them to understand concisely what your business is as well. So if your business does change, you can sort of let your value proposition evolve over time with your business. It doesn't have to be perfect. The second that you write it and start using it, you can test it. You can write a couple of value propositions and see which one has the best reaction. Test them with different groups. If you have multiple customers, so different customer segments, you might have a different value proposition for each of your customers, and that would sort of enable how you market towards them. So again, it's not something that has to be really concrete. It can be fluid, just like your business is. So I hope that was helpful for everyone. And if let's have a look. Any more questions? Like not so okay. So again, if anybody has any questions about this, once you've given it a try, do feel free to get in touch with me and we can work on it together. So thank you for listening today. So to find out more about the free startup support that we offer through Startups in London Libraries, please visit this website here on the slide, so bl.uk/SIL, and do join us for Startup Stars from Passion to Profit on the 24th of November. It's always great to hear from some of our successful peers. So do join us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.